How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. So today we're talking about the alternative to Yamamoto, which essentially would be Jordan Montgomery. So all of you guys know Montgomery, fan favorite when he was with the Yankees. Obviously, we traded him for couple different reasons. The Yankees weren't really going to utilize him in the playoffs, and Severino was playing well at the time, and of course that move kind of bit us in the butt because Monty went on to win a World Series with the Texas Rangers a couple weeks ago, and now the Yankees have to ask themselves, is bringing him back at 30 years old a viable alternative? Is it a viable option? Because he is probably the best option outside of Yamamoto, one of the best. You'd be adding another lefty to your rotation with Nestor Cortes and Carlos Rodon, so you'd have a really diverse rotation for what it's worth. But I think that I obviously prefer Yamamoto. 25 years old. He's 5 years younger than Montgomery, but he's not a proven commodity at the MLB level, and he certainly didn't just win a World Series. So I do believe there is an argument on behalf of Monty, and he apparently, according to the New York Post, prefers to go back to a familiar place, whether it be the Bronx, whether it be St. Louis, or whether it be Texas. So the Yankees certainly are in the mix here. He's not going to get $200 million. Want to discuss the option of bringing him back and if it's something the Yankees should be considering, and I think that, in my opinion, maybe you as well, ultimately, the only way I would really consider this is if we are out on Yamamoto, and that is not supposed to be the case. The New York Mets are in. I think the Giants will be in. The Dodgers will be in. But the expectation is that the Yankees will be heavily pursuing him this offseason and willing to give him a pretty big deal. So, Ryan, let's start off with Yamamoto. Talk about his upside compared to an MLB-ready player, a player that has proven value, proven quality at the highest level, and has just won a World Series. How much of it is a risk-reward type of situation in terms of the risk value of going after Yamamoto or, bringing back Montgomery on a long-term deal?
Yeah, so the first thing I'm going to say in regards to Yoshinobu Yamamoto is that Yoshinobu Yamamoto is easily one of the best pitching pitcher talents we've seen come over from the MPB. Quite frankly, I'd say he's the best pitcher to come over from the MPB since the posting system began. So I know it's a bold claim. I know what we're asking, I'm saying a lot right now by saying he is the very best, and that places a lot of pressure on him, but that's pressure that he's going to invite on himself by accepting a large contract. There's a reason that teams are willing to go north of $200 million for a guy who's never thrown a pitch to the major league level, and that's because his stuff is legit. I was looking through the World Baseball Classic information and data, and Alex, it's mind-boggling, right? His stuff is really, really good. You'll see him rip some fastballs from a lower slot release that he just shouldn't be able to rip. He can get, 95, 96. We've seen him hit 99 at the MPB. He's got a really good pitch mix with the splitter. He's got a sweeper that he doesn't use as much as he probably could. He's got a curveball, which is a unique pitch. He kind of throws it with a unique grip as well. And he has a cutter as well. He's able to manipulate the spin of a fastball to make it more of a sinker or a cutter or a four-seamer, depending on the matchup. His command is excellent. The stuff is excellent. This was a guy who came up as a command-first pitcher, and command and finesse are the two things that, are really prioritized in the MPB just because, it's a different play style. They play baseball a little bit differently over there. All right? And, that's true for any run environment if you start up any baseball league, right? Obviously, over in the United States, we've kind of, optimized launch angle and power and all of those things. I imagine those principles would translate to the MPB at some point. But right now, there's still a lot of prioritization on contact and, doing things of that nature. So small ball still plays a role over there. And Yamamoto's fastball might play better in an environment where there is more swing and miss. He might be able to go a little more aggressively up in the strike zone. He might be able to get more chases and swings and misses on those chases. So, I really do think his skill set translates well to the United States, and there's a reason why the Yankees are really interested in him. And the Yankees are the organization that, you view and you say, hey, they could really use a superstar, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto would certainly, check that box off on the pitching side of things. Now, obviously, the concern is what would the Yankees' interest in a Juan Soto look like, and extending him? What will that look like if they sign Yoshinobu Yamamoto? If it hinders their ability to go after Soto, I think most Yankee fans would say they don't want to get Yamamoto just for that reason, and it's kind of crazy that one guy controls the market so much that we're talking about a generational pitching talent and saying, do we want him on our team simply because of the existence of Juan Soto? But he's certainly one of the most interesting and exciting pitching I don't want to use the term prospects here. He's not a prospect. It's one of the most exciting pitching talents we've seen come over to the United States, and the biggest thing here, Alex, is he's 25 years old. You've talked about this before. You're able to build around him. You're able to look at him and say, this could be my ace for 10 years, or this could be the guy who supersedes Garrett Cole, when Garrett Cole inevitably, Father Time is undefeated, right? If Tom Brady had to retire, man, everybody's gonna have to retire at some point, right? So, end of the day, you're looking at Yoshinobu Yamamoto, you're looking at the sustainability of your rotation long term, and he just fits and he checks off every single box. So, obviously, he's the top guy for me on this market.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're looking at the quality that Yamamoto brings, his pitch sequence, everything about him screams that he is ready for this challenge, right? He's 25. Like, even if he has a little bit of a transition struggle, it's going to be long term very beneficial. And as I've said consistently, the benefit of having a player who not only is 25 but also has pitched 3 consecutive years over 170 innings, it is worthwhile to go in that direction. It's worthwhile to test that. It's worthwhile to take that risk. And I think the Yankees could potentially see him as a long-term asset, even when Garrett Cole declines to a degree. And I think that will happen eventually. He's, 32, 33 years old now. It's going to happen at some point. And the Yankees need to be prepared for that. So, when it comes to Montgomery, though, do you think that there's an overage of lefties if they were to go to that direction? 3 lefties in the rotation? I know, obviously having diversity is good, but do you think that might be too many?
Well, obviously, the way I look at it is that, you want to have the best rotation possible, right? And if it means having like an obscure amount of lefties, that could get a little bit dicey, but, as long as you're pitching well, it doesn't really matter. But as you mentioned, with lefties, like, if you have 3 lefties, you have 3 guys who on paper have a disadvantage against right-handed hitting, and right-handed hitters are the most prominent hitter we see in the league. Obviously, there's not as many lefties as there are righties. That's prominent in literally everything, in every aspect of life. But Jordan Montgomery certainly is somebody who would anchor your rotation, give you, quality innings, all that stuff. But the report that John Heyman put out about, him being closer to $200 million than people think, I don't know if I'm willing to pay that price tag, right? Like when it was more like, okay, he's probably going to get like a little bit north of $100 million, maybe like 5 years, $100 million, or, 6 years, $120 million. That's a fine price tag to pay. But if I'm paying 150, 160, 170 million, I need a pitcher who gets more swing and miss. I need a pitcher who has a little more upside. I need a pitcher who can, strike out, 25 to 30% of batters. And I'm not saying this to demean Jordan Montgomery. I'm just saying this to say that, there is a little bit of I'd have a little bit of skepticism, right? He's had 1 full season with an ERA minus below 90. That means an ERA minus that's saying that he's only had 1 season where his ERA is better than 10% of the league average. And look, 90 ERA minus being 10% better than league average is certainly good, but I feel like it would be another like Yankee acquisition, or it'd be very in line with the acquisitions that have failed in the past, to get a guy at his highest value and then see him regress, right? Like if we look at projected ERA, he's projected for a 3.93 ERA and a 3.1 WAR. Certainly very good. Like he's projected to be a good pitcher. Like that is good for pitching projections. He's projected to be, I think, a top 30 starter in the league. I can double check right now. But yeah, like that's not bad. Nobody's arguing, top 30 starters is bad, but they're going to pay what, $25 million for the 30th or like 25th best pitcher in baseball. To be exact, he's projected to be the 25th best pitcher in baseball. So, I'm just pointing that out, right? Like Eduardo Rodriguez is projected for a 2.8 F4 and projected to be a 28th best starter in baseball, and he's likely not going to get $150 million. So if the Yankees wanted to get another lefty and they really wanted to get a starter, and they didn't get Yamamoto, I would maybe pivot more towards Erod, right? Like he said he's open geographically to kind of play anywhere. Obviously there are some concerns because, for various reasons, he hasn't pitched a lot of innings, right? Like in 2020, he opted out of the season because of a heart condition that he had, so he didn't want to push it because obviously COVID and heart conditions don't really go well. 2022, he missed most of the season because he had some personal issues and he was on the restricted list for a while. Nothing like concerning off field, just, his own personal life, trying to handle things there. And then this past season, he pitched 140 innings, had a finger issue. That's not something you're too concerned about. But, Alex, I'm really looking here at, what signing Montgomery to a $150 million deal would preclude you from doing. And on top of that, if I'm making another big investment in my rotation, I'm going big or going home, right? Like if I'm throwing, a 9-figure contract out there for a starter, I want a guy who can be my ace, right? And I'm not saying Jordan Montgomery can't be an ace. I'm just saying he's not projected to be an ace.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I wonder how much he's going to get. Maybe he gets $150 million. Again, the risk of capitalizing off of one really good season is definitely high. Like it's a high risk. Now Yamamoto has had 3 really good years. Again, it's at a different level, but his stuff is elite, and I think that that's something to focus in on. But if the Yankees do not end up with Yamamoto, I wouldn't be upset landing Montgomery. I think that he's a good pitcher. He is proven, and he's got a World Series under his belt now. He knows what that looks like. He knows what that feels like. So I do think that looking ahead, I would be fine with him. I just wonder how long that deal would be, because 30 years old, if it's a 5-year, 6-year deal, is 35, 36. I feel like that fall off could be pretty steep, and I'm a little bit worried about that. So, we'll see how things progress, guys. Always happy to hear your thoughts and perspectives down in the YouTube comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.